The morning mist curled above the quiet riverbank, blurring the outline of the world. Fishermen had yet to arrive, and the forest hummed with its usual birdsong. Among reeds and wet pebbles, something sat out of place, an old leather suitcase. Its brown surface was water-stained, its brass clasps dull with rust. Whoever had left it there had chosen a spot both hidden and exposed, as though torn between secrecy and confession. No footprints surrounded it. Only the suitcase itself told a story no one could yet read. By mid-morning, a curious jogger would stumble upon it. Hannah Miles ran this trail every Saturday, tracing the bends of the Silver Pine River. She wasn't expecting to find anything unusual, let alone a suitcase with a faint smell of decay. She slowed, her breath clouding in the chill air, and crouched beside it. The locks appeared unfastened. She hesitated, her fingers hovering, then pulled back. Something about the way it sat there felt deliberate, staged. Looking around, Hannah saw no one. Only trees stood as witnesses. Her heart thudded. She debated whether to open herself or leave it for the authorities. Curiosity whispered louder. Hannah pressed the clasps open, and the suitcase exhaled a musty sigh. Inside, wrapped in faded blue fabric, lay stacks of photographs, black and white, curled at the edges. Faces stared at her from the past. Children in school uniforms, women in wide-brimmed hats, men in military coats. A single newspaper clipping lay on top, yellow with time. The headline read, "Local Girl Still Missing. Case Unsolved After 25 Years." Hannah's mouth went dry. She dropped the clipping back into the case, her instincts screaming that she shouldn't touch any of it. Someone had left this here for a reason. Hannah pulled out her phone, snapping pictures of the suitcase and its contents. Then, with trembling hands, she dialed 911. Her voice wavered as she explained the discovery. The dispatcher's calm tone reassured her, but unease still prickled her spine. She closed the suitcase and backed away, waiting. The river murmured softly beside her, as if guarding the secret. 15 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser crunched down the gravel path. Sheriff Daniel Crowley stepped out, a tall man with weathered eyes. He nodded to Hannah, his gaze falling on the suitcase. "Don't tell me you opened it." Hannah admitted she had. Sheriff Crowley sighed, kneeling beside the suitcase. With gloved hands, he examined the photographs and the clipping, his brow furrowed at the headline. "Ellie Harper," he murmured. "She vanished when I was a rookie." Case went cold. He looked at Hannah. "This suitcase wasn't here yesterday. I know this trail." He ordered his deputy to rope off the area. Hannah felt a pang of dread. What had she stumbled into? Crowley's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed unease. Someone wanted this found. Question is, why now and who left it here? By afternoon, word had spread. Locals gathered at the trail entrance, whispering rumors. Some claimed the Harper family's ghost haunted the river. Others insisted the suitcase belonged to a drifter. Sheriff Crowley ignored speculation. In his office, he spread the photographs across a table. They were dated, some scribbled with names on the back. Ellie Harper's face appeared in several, smiling wide, a dimple creasing her cheek. The last photo was chilling. Ellie standing near the very same riverbank, suitcase in hand. Crowley's skin prickled. "Whoever left this," he muttered. "They're telling us Ellie's story isn't finished." Hannah couldn't shake the image of Ellie's smile. That night, she searched online archives, uncovering old articles. Ellie had vanished in 1995, last seen walking home from school. No leads, no suspects, no body. The case had devastated the town, then faded into silence. But why now? Hannah thought of the suitcase, too pristine to have sat by the river for decades. Someone had preserved it, then placed it deliberately. As Hannah closed her laptop, headlights swept across her window. A car idled outside, engine humming. She froze. After a minute, the car pulled away, leaving only questions. Sheriff Crowley's phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A message from an unknown number. "The truth is by the river. Look deeper." No caller ID, no trace. He stared at the words, uneasy. He hadn't disclosed the suitcase to the press yet, meaning someone was watching. He returned to the riverbank with a flashlight. Mist clung to ground, muffling sound. He searched the reeds and found fresh footprints, small, barefoot impressions leading into the water, then vanishing. Crowley crouched, his beam flickering across ripples. The river seemed to swallow the trail. He shivered, though the night was still. In the morning, Crowley visited Ellie's parents, now elderly. Mrs. Harper trembled when he showed her the photographs. Tears welled in her eyes as she touched Ellie's face. "These weren't ours," she whispered. "Where did you get them?" Mr. Harper, pale and stoic, shook his head. Whoever left that suitcase wanted to reopen wounds. Crowley pressed gently. "Did Ellie ever have a suitcase like this?" Mrs. Harper paused. "She packed one once, for a trip she never took, but it wasn't found when she disappeared." Silence filled the room. Crowley realized the suitcase itself was a missing piece. Meanwhile, Hannah found herself drawn back to the river. She stood at the spot where she had first seen the suitcase. The reeds whispered in the breeze, almost beckoning. She noticed something she had missed before, a small silver charm, half buried in mud. She picked it up, wiping it clean. It was a locket, tarnished but intact. Inside was a faded photo. Ellie and another girl, arms wrapped around each other. On the back, scratched faintly, were two initials, YH plus AM. Hannah frowned. Who was AM? Why leave the locket here, unless someone wanted it discovered too? Inside the suitcase, Detective Marlowe found a photograph torn in half. It showed two figures standing by a cabin. One face was scratched out violently. The other seemed strangely familiar. The edges of the photo smelled faintly of smoke. "Someone wanted to erase the past," Marlowe whispered. "But why hide the remains in a suitcase by the river?" That night, Marlowe visited a riverside bar where locals often drank. Two men whispered in the corner. He caught fragments of their conversation. "The suitcase should have sunk. They'll find out." One of them noticed Marlowe listening and quickly left, leaving his beer untouched. The next day, Marlowe traced the torn photograph's background. It matched an old cabin deep in the woods, abandoned for years. Inside, dust covered everything except for one chair, recently moved. On the wall, faint scratches spelled, "Don't trust the water." The message chilled him. As Marlowe left the cabin, he felt eyes on him. Someone was watching from the tree lean. He pretended not to notice, but when he turned suddenly, the figure melted into the forest shadows. Whoever left the suitcase was tracking his every move. That night, he stood by the same spot where the suitcase had been found. The river rushed darkly, carrying secrets in its current. He dropped a stone, watching ripples. Then he noticed the soil by the bank was freshly disturbed, as if something else had been buried there. Using his hands, he clawed at the wet soil. His fingers hit something solid, wood, a small box locked tight. He pried it open with his pocket knife. Inside, a diary wrapped in oilskin, still damp but legible. The first page began, "They told me never to return to the river." The diary belonged to a woman named Eleanor. She wrote about a man who followed her, who left her threatening letters, who claimed the river belonged to him. The final entry ended mid-sentence. "If I disappear, check the cabin." He said the suitcase was only the beginning. Marlowe tracked down Eleanor's sister, living 2 towns over. Her hands trembled as she read the diary. "We thought she ran away," the sister whispered. "But the cabin, that's where she met him. She always said the river had eyes." A fisherman who claimed to have seen someone dragging the suitcase was scheduled to meet Marlowe. But when the detective arrived at his shack, the door was ajar, coffee still warm on the table. The fisherman was gone. Only muddy boot prints led back toward the river. That night, lantern in hand, Marlowe searched the river's edge again. Something floated toward him. It was a mask, smooth, featureless, painted white. He lifted it with a stick. On the inside, scrawled in ink, "I am still here." Marlowe reported his findings, but the local sheriff dismissed him. "Old tales," the sheriff muttered. "People drown, people vanish. Don't stir panic." Yet the way the sheriff avoided eye contact told Marlowe more. He knew something, maybe even feared it. Back at his office, Marlowe found an envelope slid under his door. No stamp, no name. Inside was a single line written in block letters. Ask who owns the cabin. Marlowe checked property records. The cabin had changed hands multiple times, always through shell companies. But the original owner was a man named Samuel Harker, vanished 30 years ago after his wife drowned in the river. The drowning was ruled an accident. The town never spoke of it again. Marlowe visited the cemetery. Samuel Harker's grave was empty, no flowers, no offerings. Locals avoided walking near it. An old groundskeeper muttered, "His body was never found. Some say he still walks." Just as the mystery thickened, another suitcase surfaced downstream, caught in reeds. This one contained children's toys, rusted and broken, and a single journal entry in Eleanor's handwriting. "He collects what he takes from us." That night, a violent storm broke out. Thunder rattled the cabin as Marlowe read through the diary again. He realized Eleanor's descriptions matched Samuel Harker's mannerisms from Old Town reports. Could he still be alive, or was someone imitating him? Pressed between diary pages was an old clipping. "Local woman drowns in river tragedy. Husband missing." A faded photo showed Samuel's face, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes. Marlowe compared it to the torn photo. The resemblance was undeniable. Returning to the cabin, Marlowe found wet footprints on the wooden floor. Someone had been inside only moments before. In the corner, a candle still burned, its wax dripping fresh. He wasn't alone. "Looking for me?" A voice rasped from the shadows. Marlowe spun around, but the figure retreated. He chased outside, lightning flashing. A tall man in a coat disappeared into the storm, leaving only the echo of laughter behind. Near the cabin door, Marlowe discovered a handkerchief soaked with fresh blood. Embroidered initials read, S.H. Back at the town hall, Marlowe requested more files on Harker, but the clerk shook his head. "Those records? All gone. Someone came last week, asked for them, never returned." A fisherman reported seeing a small rowboat moving by itself at night, lantern flickering. Marlowe investigated, only to find the boat moored with wet oars. Inside, carved into the wood, she's still in the water. At Eleanor's sister's home, a mirror had been smashed overnight. No one heard it break. In the shards, scrawled in lipstick were the words, "He's coming." An elderly man finally came forward. "I knew Harker," he whispered. "He wasn't right in the head. Claimed the river spoke to him. He believed drowning set souls free. We tried to stop him, but he vanished before we could." One evening, Marlowe saw a lantern glowing on the riverbank. He approached cautiously. The suitcase lay open again, but this time it was empty, on the sand beside it. Muddy footprints leading straight into the river and stopping at the waterline. As he leaned over the edge, lightning lit the river. For a split second, Marlowe swore he saw a face staring back up at him. A gaunt, pale face with hollow eyes. The sheriff confronted Marlowe. "Drop this case," he growled. When Marlowe refused, the sheriff finally admitted, "Harker was my uncle. We covered up what he did. We thought it ended with him. But someone has brought him back." Eleanor's sister vanished the next morning. Her front door unlocked, diary pages scattered across the floor. The last thing she had written was, "I heard his boots outside my window." Marlowe returned to the cabin, pistol ready. Inside, the torn photograph had been taped back together. Both faces were clear now, Eleanor and Samuel Harker. Behind him, a floorboard creaked. "You've seen too much," a voice said. The struggle was fierce. A shot rang out. Marlowe staggered as the figure fled into the storm. He chased him to the riverbank. There, Samuel, or whoever wore his face, slipped into the water. The current swallowed him whole. The suitcase drifted downstream, spinning, vanishing into darkness. The mystery remained unsolved.